Welcome back, everyone, to the cigar smoke-filled back room. I am Doug with Tusk Consulting, tuskconsulting@gmail.com, tuskconsulting@gmail.com. If you are a pro-gun Republican and need political consulting help, drop me a line at that email and we'll do something. If you're not a pro-gun Republican, off with you. Not interested. Anyhow, in the ongoing video series about things that are not discussed enough in politics, or at least not discussed honestly enough in politics, today we're going to be talking about assassination attempts and their practical impact on electoral politics. Before we get too far into the video, today's cigar is a Saison by Oliva, and the bottle of the day is Basil Hayden. If you don't know Basil Hayden, it's a low proof, only 80 proof, nice, easy sipping bourbon. Hey, these are not sponsors to the program, but they drop me a line of that email, work something out. Anyhow, assassination attempts and their practical impacts on electoral politics. Let's start with the obvious. There's quite a bit going on lately in the news on this point. What we want are free and fair elections, okay? Elections got to be free and fair. You can't have a free and fair election if a candidate's dead. So, assassination, bad thing, we don't like it, and that's regardless of who's the target of it. I am very saddened that Donald Trump has been targeted twice now. I certainly do not want any other candidates targeted, and anybody who thinks that they should be is frankly out of their gourd. This is not the way that America chooses their leaders. We get to vote on it and have a system, the Electoral College, etc., and that's the way the system works. So, free and fair election, good thing, and we have to have the candidates there for that. So let's talk about our recent attempts on Trump's life and a little compare and contrast to some other attempted assassinations. A couple notes. I'm not going to talk about successful assassinations because, well, a successful assassination ends that candidacy, although it doesn't necessarily end the movement or the message that candidate was trying to put forward. So, again, for people that think this is some kind of a valid course of action, A, it's not, and B, you could actually generate the exact opposite of your intent by making somebody a martyr. So, dumb, okay? Don't do it. Additionally, I'm not going to go through every attempted assassination in American political history. There's frankly too many. There's also been a lot of successful ones as well. But I've selected a few that I think are historically significant and have some decent parallels to what we're facing now. So let's get into it. On September 15th, just a couple days ago, there was a second attempt on Donald Trump's life. And while it's still early in the process, and early reports are often wrong, there are some things we can be fairly sure of. It seems like this particular would-be assassin was motivated by politics. That's quite unfortunate. It also seems like he's a little nutty, which actually seems fairly consistent with other people that have attempted such things. He had a modified SKS. That was not an AK-47. I know people keep saying AK-47, or say AK-47 type weapon. No. The SKS came before the AK-47. This is an SKS with a number of aftermarket modifications. It is chambered in the same cartridge as the AK-47, sure. But that's, in some ways it can cosmetically look kind of similar, but it is not the same thing. And I really wish people would stop saying that. I'm a gun guy, pro-gun Republican. I notice these things. And frankly, the SKS that I had that had a 30-round detachable magazine didn't feed very well. The original SKS had a 10-round attached box magazine that was loaded via stripper clips. It was significantly more reliable that way than with the modifications that tried to make it look cosmetically like an AK-47, which it never was, and frankly wasn't very good at even looking like. Anyhow, Additionally, that SKS had a defaced serial number, which is a crime, but train's going by here. That doesn't really matter because he was ineligible to own a gun anyway. He's a felon in possession of a gun. That's a federal offense. Defaced serial number is another federal offense. And oh yeah, trying to kill people is real bad, and trying to kill a major party candidate and a former president is also a very heavy-duty federal offense. This person, very bad person, did a lot of things he shouldn't have. Anyhow, good news, he didn't get his shots off, or at least so it seems at this point. And since he was taken into custody alive, we may end up learning more. Like I said, it does seem like he was motivated by politics, which again, not great. But there's where we are. The July 13th, the first attempt to assassinate Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. This, of course, where he was famously shot in the ear. That iconic photograph of him holding his fist up, with blood on his ear and everything, with the Secret Service agents around him. Just absolutely impressive. That photograph. Absolutely tragic event. A number of people hurt. One firefighter killed. Incredibly sad. And had the potential to really mess things up hard. Remember, on July 13th, Donald Trump had not yet picked his running mate. So had that person been successful, you may notice I'm not using their name, so that's intentional. Had that person been successful in his attempt there on July 13th, who would our nominee have been? Without a running mate, there's no obvious, well, this is who they would have wanted, right? That could have really upended the apple cart pretty darn hard. But fortunately, Donald Trump was spared. He was hurt, but not in a way that would have kept him from continuing his candidacy. And we didn't have to deal with that crisis. Now, some historical comparisons. Frankly, it's been a while since there's been legitimate attempts to assassinate a presidential contender. And in some cases, we're talking about sitting presidents. In other cases, we're talking about presidential candidates. But the most recent one that I want to discuss is the attempt on Reagan's life in March of '81. You can tell you're talking with a real loser, lunatic liberal if they say that Reagan won re-election in '84 because of the attempt on his life. And look, certainly there was a rallying, a unifying of the country in favor of President Reagan after the attempt on his life. And it was serious. I mean, he spent almost 2 weeks in the hospital. It was no joke. Of course, he was not a young man. At the time, he was rather old for a president. Nowadays, we've had presidents significantly older even than Reagan. But the point is that it was very serious. And it did have the potential. It was bad. It was bad. But he did recover. There are, famous lines. Again, this press people a lot of credit here. The whole, I sure hope you fellas are all Republicans. And the doctor replying, today we're all Republicans, Mr. President. The press people got that out, which was, very good handling of the situation. The iconic, honey, I forgot to duck that he said to Nancy. Those kind of things. Look, the man was a master communicator. He was an actor after all. He knew what to do, even in very tough situations like that. The way you know that this is a loser, loony liberal that claims that 1984, the 49 state landslide in favor of Reagan happened because of the attempt on Reagan's life. The attempt on Reagan's life happened in '81. In fact, in spring of '81. Reagan hadn't even been in office for 3 months yet, okay? And look, again, the person who tried to kill Reagan and hurt a couple other people as well, I think a Secret Service agent, a police officer, and of course Brady was also very seriously wounded in that attack and ultimately died years later. But the point is that it was a long time between the attempt on his life and the 84 election. A long time. It's not like it happened 3 months before the election. It happened 3.5 years before the election in 84. Okay? So I really don't think that people sat around for the next, 42 months thinking, oh, I'm going to vote for Reagan because he got shot. I don't think that's the case, folks. I think this is, again, your liberal friends. Look, I got liberal friends too. They conveniently forget that the 1980 race between Carter and Reagan had been a pretty thorough drubbing of Carter, okay? The fact of the matter is that Reagan beat Carter epically in 80. It's just most people don't remember that as much as they remember 84 with the 49 state ultimate landslide that Reagan had in his reelect. And largely, I think the 84 performance is based on the improvement in America's condition between 80 and 84 and had really very little to do with the attempt on Ronald Reagan's life in March of 81. Let's be serious, people. Anyhow, President Ford had 2 attempts on his life. 2 attempts on life. That sounds familiar. It's almost like history repeats itself. He was not hurt in either attempt. In fact, in one of those attempts, the gun didn't even go off. Much like we have here. Anyway, but he had 2 attempts on his life in 1975. The interesting thing here is that Ford was the president nobody voted for. Hey, how many people have voted for Kamala Harris? Oh yeah, as of right now anyway, no one. No one. She's the Democrat nominee for president, and nobody voted for her in any Democrat primary at all. Period. There's a bit of a parallel there. And this is a good way to retort against the, having an attempt on your life rallies people behind you and gives you an advantage in election. Ford lost in 76. Yes, it was a relatively close race, but he did lose. Yeah, things are kind of close right now, aren't they? Yeah, they are. Just like they were in 76. Well, and the guy that nobody voted for didn't end up on the winning side. Maybe another person nobody... it couldn't possibly be any parallels there. I'm going to go a little further back in history to Teddy Roosevelt in 1912. Maybe I said, gee, Doug, why are you going, all that far back? Well, a couple reasons. One is that he was, at this point, a former president running for president. Hey, there we go. And he was also minorly wounded in this attempt on his life. This is the, he famously said it takes more than that to kill a bull moose. Okay. Despite him being a very popular figure in the early part of the 20th century, I mean, he's literally on Mount Rushmore, right? Literally. All right? You don't get to be a much bigger figure in American history than Teddy Roosevelt. Still lost. And he lost in 1912 after the attempt on his life by a pretty good margin. Okay? He massively lost. So again, when people say, an attempt on a presidential contender's life is going to automatically rally support to them, I got a couple data points that says that ain't true. So let's talk about that political impact. And I know there's a very serious human toll, bystanders hurt, killed, bad stuff, and none of it conducive to having a free and fair election. But let's talk about the practical political impact of these events. Yes, they can humanize the intended target. Certainly that happened with Reagan in 81, although probably that effect didn't linger the 3.5 years to the 84 election. Yes, it can be a way to break through the media filter, which is something, especially when you have an extraordinarily skewed mainstream media, can be handy. Certainly not worth the cost, the human cost, though, to accomplish that. There's other ways, especially in this modern digital age when we have social media and, direct texting and everything, streaming ads. There's a lot other easier ways to get your message out and get around the media than, being on the receiving end of an assassin, or would-be assassin in this case. Obviously, it can also change the way the campaign functions. there's going to be pressure in the aftermath of an unsuccessful assassination attempt to have the candidate rein in their public appearances, to not do outdoor events, etc., etc. Now, this is something, Trump seems to have so far resisted that. I think actually he's doing an event tonight, Michigan, I believe. But there's going to be pressure. The Secret Service is going to ask him, and they should ask him, to, Mr. President, please, we don't want any more of these outdoor events. And he will also rightly push back and say, hey, you guys got drones, you got dogs, you got, officers, you can coordinate with the local cops, I'll work with you, but, you guys got to be able to secure the facility. So there will be some pressure to rein in the way the campaign works. Additionally, it does shift the media narrative. We did a video on media narrative. You got to understand, right now, Donald Trump wants every media story to be about the economy, the border, crime, the horrible state of the world stage. Every minute being discussed about assassination attempts is a minute that's not talking about the policies and the issues that are absolutely on his side. He needs the issues to be in play, not what whack job tried to take a shot at him today. Okay? That is actually not helpful. So again, when people say, oh, well, this is, a guarantee of, he's much stronger for this happening. It's no guarantee of victory. Ask Ford. Ask Teddy, a man literally on Mount Rushmore, Teddy Roosevelt. He didn't win. It's no guarantee of victory. So in summary, assassination attempts can succeed, and if they do, that ends a candidacy, but not necessarily the message that they were trying to put forward, the agenda they were trying to put forward. Or assassination attempts can fail, at which point they will alter a candidacy. That altered candidacy may be better, or it may be worse than it was beforehand. Again, I am Doug with Tusk Consulting. TuskConsulting@gmail.com. TuskConsulting@gmail.com. Thanks everyone for your attention. See you in the next one.